This is the Brew World Order Podcast.
Welcome to the Brew World Order Podcast. My name is Mike Curtin. If you haven't subscribed yet, come on. What do I gotta do? Beg ya? Because I will. This is episode number 49, and in this episode I sit down with Joe Artanis, co-owner of Three Sons Brewing Company in Dana Beach, Florida. Joe explains what went into opening their business after the initial leasing of their building, how owning a brewery is more of a triathlon than just a marathon, and he tells a funny story of how his newly hired dishwasher just up and vanished. Seems to happen more often than not. I'll get a bunch of subscribers and then poof, they just disappear. Is it something I said? Something I did? I may never know, because I can't find those people. But you're here with me now, and you're about to listen to a great episode. So sit back, crack open a beer, and enjoy this podcast, baby. Hey guys, I'm Mike Curtin. This is the Brew World Order Podcast, and today I'm with Joe Artanis of Three Sons Brewing Company in Dana Beach, Florida. Around 1999, Joe Artanis' son, Corey, was stationed in the military in Washington State when he caught his first love of craft beer. Corey visited his friend's family in Idaho, and there he found out about the home brewing process. 2006, Corey headed down to South Florida, and while he was there, he started experimenting with homebrewing and studying the process. He eventually wound up bringing a homebrewed beer to a bottle share, and everyone loved it. A friend even told Corey he needed to do it professionally. He continued to get better and better at brewing and even entered numerous competitions. Around 2013, Corey visited Joe down in St. Petersburg, and Joe told Corey about a place called Brewer's Tasting Room, where the owners helped homebrewers to get their beers out to the public and let them know how well their beers were doing. Corey's beer did well, and it was proof that their beer was great enough to go pro. Not too long after, he reached out to the owners of Cigar City to see if he could share some of his beer at their annual Hunahpu Day Festival. A long shot to ask for a homebrewer, but when they tried his beer, they completely agreed. He continued to pour beers at different events and collaborated with some of the big names in the brewing industry. And after a long time of brewing and perfecting and numerous people asking when he was going to open his brewery, Joe and Corey decided it was time to start looking for a space to open. They finally found the perfect location after a year and a half of looking. They leased the building in December of 2015 and opened officially to the public in March of 2019 as Three Sons Brewing Company. And Joe Artanis is here with me today. Joe, how's it going?
Good.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? From the time you leased it to the time you opened it, what went into that long-awaited period of building up the brewery before you opened the doors to the public?
When we found the space, the process was to get some design work done. So we hired an architect to start looking at designing the space out. It was a big warehouse. We're in the back of a shopping plaza, and we hired an architect. We had some issues with the architect and not responding quickly. But the steps that went on till we actually got built out it took about 3 years to finally open the doors, were to get the design layout of the space, and then look at a design of our equipment, go to the city, get documents, construction docs, permits, get funding, all those good things. took up that time in that roughly 3 year period to opening.
Working with architects and all that, as I did construction for many years, there's a lot that goes into it. So yeah, and I actually saw the place when I was down there not too long ago. It actually looks phenomenal for anybody that wants to go see it. It's a beautiful, beautiful design. Well thought out. So you opened in March of 2019 after that long-awaited opening. And then less than a year later, you had to close your doors for the whole pandemic. How did you guys deal with that? And what did you have to do to adjust to make, your business keep working?
Yeah, it was definitely a change with respect to how we treated our business and our overall business plan, where from a revenue perspective, we were looking at generating more revenue through tasting room. And we had to move quicker into packaging, so still able to obtain revenue, however, much lower margins. So we were fortunate enough to have our local community for the one just about a year before we had to shut our doors down for COVID, all came out and pretty much supported us. We never did takeout business. Our chef felt our food he didn't want to put it in anything to go unless you came and ordered it, took it to go. So we never did any kind of takeout food. So that was a paradigm shift for us as well on the food side. And
right.
then certainly not pouring beer in a glass and getting them into 16-ounce cans became another logistical thing that was ramped up quite a bit. So unlike other restaurants, we were fortunate to have the ability to make beer and sell it statewide, nationally, and internationally. So that really helped, cash flow during the pandemic.
Now, did you have a canning line in the actual brewery, or was it like outsourced?
No, we use a mobile canning company.
Okay.
Basically, that's the way I would suggest anybody go initially before you get into the mechanics of owning a line.
Right.
There's a lot of heavy lifting there. So it worked out very well for us. With Ironheart is who we worked with, and they're fantastic.
Gotcha. So I know Corey, he brewed for, as I said before in the intro, like there was a long period of him brewing and just learning and brewing and then collabing with people and, entering competitions and all that stuff. What was that exact moment that hit where it was like, this is the time to open a brewery, let's start looking?
Well, being kind of the business guy, I really needed to get proof of concept. Certainly, Corey being my son, which is, there's a dynamic there of, wow, he's my son, so everything's great.
Right, so sure.
I really had to get some of the other, some other opinions and proof of concept. So I'd have to say the proof of concept started coming in when we were at the brewer's tasting room, which, as you mentioned, it was a model where the owners helped home brewers go pro by putting their beers up on tap for sale.
Right.
They sold them. And a number of brewers actually would be there drinking beer and tasting everybody's beer. So when I'm watching the crowd and everybody's like, wow, this is good beer, I'm like, okay, well, it's not just me thinking it's good beer. We've got some people who have palates. And that was the first for me to say, hey, okay, let's take a more serious look at this. And the next step that I discussed with Corey was to, let's join the Brewers Association. Let's go to their meeting, which was in Denver.
Right.
That's like a month later, and that's kind of that was the time where I think it kind of turned the page for us to start looking at this as a serious career opportunity for Corey.
Right. And how did you guys go about funding the business?
So we primarily our funding was a small business administrative loan. Obviously putting up our assets as collateral, guaranteeing the loan. So big chunk was there. We did get some smaller individual funding from some really interested parties that wanted to associate themselves with our brand, and they're silent partners, very small percentage. And that's where the most of the funding came from, our own out-of-pocket loans and some private investment.
Right. Corey was around a lot of brewers and brewery owners, and I'm sure you were there too when opening your business, and they kind of gave you advice. But what was something you never thought you were going to have to deal with when owning your own brewery?
You don't know what you don't know,
Right.
It's like, there's a lot we didn't know. So owning the brewery, I didn't realize that it was, it wasn't a marathon, it was a triathlon, I guess. I was looking at it more as a marathon. It's like starting any business. You've got to put a lot of time and heart into it. But the brewery and the tasting room, the food, it's a triathlon. And I really didn't think the pace was going to be as heavy a pace as it was. So I would have to say that, that's probably my biggest surprise is how much heavy lifting there was to getting all of the pieces and parts moving and in place. So we're still running in the triathlon.
Gotcha. Was it like an onslaught of people from the moment you opened the doors? Like, was it just like overwhelming?
Yeah, no, that's kind of the fun part, right? You get people coming in, and I know with court, it's always like the challenge. We get people coming in, and they may not like husband and wife, or couples, and one likes beer, the other one doesn't.
Right.
It's like a challenge. Hey, you never tried this, you never tried that. Just trying to get people to taste the different styles that are out there today. But that's the fun part. I guess I was referring more to the challenge being logistically all of the different things that are happening and trying to get it open and keep things running. And people in the front, like those, people who come and they have the beer, etc., they have no idea because everything is behind the curtain that's going on, and the show for them is usually good experience, good food, good beer, and everybody's happy. So,
yeah, right. So what do you think, besides COVID, obviously, and the whole shutdown, what do you think is the hardest adjustment you had to make when becoming an owner of a brewery?
Hardest adjustment for me, personally, I would think, it's probably something other people would seem is time. Just maintaining my personal, the personal life and how much time you have to really commit, especially in a startup.
Right.
And this is a startup where we had absolutely no experience in. If you're starting a new company and you've got some experience, then it might be a little easier, and not suck up as much time and bandwidth. But I would say for me, the time factor was more than I had thought I would be committed to.
Right. Just as just being there and having to be a part of the a brewery most of the times. Is that what you mean? Like,
yeah.
Or just everything as a whole.
The adjustment time-wise is just you try to maintain your personal life, your business life, and your spiritual, and just having that whole balance. So it's not just physically being there, but because you go home and you're still working.
Right.
It's never really ends. So just trying to balance out that factor, which I'm usually pretty good at. It's been a challenge and a major adjustment, and that adjustment is just not for myself, but my significant other and other family members. So that would be my biggest adjustment.
Right.
You just can't. Sometimes you just can't drop it.
And speaking of, how important is a mental break from everything for you, and what does that look like?
Yeah, it's critically important. I'd like to be more regular on a mental break, where it's totally shut down, no business. It's penalized if you talk about Three Sons or beer or anything like that. But a true breakdown, rather a breakaway for me will be going away, just leaving the country.
For sure.
COVID, 2 years ago, before COVID, would generally take a trip with my significant other, Connie, who's been my partner here and has been on my side, which is critically important. And we go to Europe, so we're planning that for November.
Nice. For
a couple of weeks, and that kind of gets that breakaway, kind of brings you back into the real world of life, and we come back and jump back into the saddle of Three Sons and try to get at least one day a week that we can just not talk about it or deal with it, and that's kind of the mental break. But the major one would be going away and getting out of it altogether.
Gotcha. So what do you think is a quality that you possess that makes you a good business owner?
Still wondering if I'm a good business owner.
You know what? That's what everybody says, and everybody's still in business, so that's good. I hope. Hope it stays that way.
But I feel that as business owners, we wear so many different hats, and depending on how much you can afford bench strength wise, bringing people on board to help you. Those things that we do, we're forced sometimes to do things that are just, you're incompetent doing them, but you may have to do it, or you're just barely competent. And then there are areas that you're a genius, and working in that area is where I like to keep the people that I have here and bring on board to offset some of those deficiencies that we have, and bring that person on. It's just like, hey man, this is their area of genius. So I think that's one of the things that are really important in running an operation, and hiring the right people, and then having those individuals work in that area of genius, and recognizing the competency levels of your workers, and then letting them go, not really micromanaging, but still listening in and holding people accountable. So I think those are some of the things that help in management. And my style is I'm always sometimes too nice a guy. So
right.
It's like, hey, I don't really carry a hammer, which I think you need that sometimes. But then I find that person's area of genius who can just swing that hammer, and that's the guy I have working.
Right.
So we've been fortunate enough to have really quality people, both on the brew house side, operationally, and on the food side and tasting room side, to fill those incompetencies that I have.
Gotcha. So this is kind of like a two-part question. Was there a defining moment for you that made you realize the brewery was going in a good direction, that that you guys were doing well? And also, how do you define success?
As far as the direction, making sure we're meeting our payroll and expenses and having the cash flow is the defining moment, and being able to increase your working capital and be in a position where, hey, we can make decisions. We can, if we need to increase capacity, we can go out, we can borrow more money, or we can buy outright additional equipment, and that's first part is really important. The success factor, I think, is that's kind of, to me, it's like eating an elephant. The success is the elephant, and every little bite is a little piece of success. And defining it, there's just getting open is, I guess, was success. Just to open the doors and to build out what we built out,
right,
and have everything working. I would say is certainly was a sign of success. Making it through COVID and still being in business, I think, that from a financial perspective, that's certainly a sign of success. And then having the team that we have working with us is a tremendous, success factor as well. Bringing the right people on, and everybody, getting along, and, being happy. It's really a great environment. So I think that's another, I would define that as success. But we keep biting away at that elephant, and every little bite, we make sure we get a good bite, digest it, and we get that done. That's another little token of success.
Yeah, for sure. I know Corey first got his taste of the craft beer world when he was out in Washington State. What was your gateway beer into the craft world? What was that first beer that you had that kind of opened your eyes to, oh, this is different?
So I was living up in Buffalo, and most of the beer that I would drink would be beer.
Right.
Or, Molson. Or, if I go to Canada, they had a little higher ABV beers there than you would be able to get in the stores in New York. So I think New York laws, you can have a beer more than, in the grocery stores or whatever, more than 5% or just over 4 or something. So, but gateway beer, Corey was the one who introduced me to craft beer and, really opened up my palate to the different styles of beer. And I guess like trying wheat heavy and barley wine, some of those beers, the barrel-aged beers.
Right.
Those were my gateway beers into the real craft beer market.
Right. Well, yeah, those are some great styles of beer to try to open up people's palates, because they're not the average light beer. They're very, like you said, they're heavy, but they're amazing. So what's next for Three Sons?
We have a couple of expansion projects that we're looking at. Our intent back in 2015, actually bought some commercial property up in Buffalo, which when the pandemic hit, we kind of put everything on the side, which we were going to look to brew up there to increase some capacity and work up in the kind of the northeast corridor. And then, we definitely, our next move is going to be to, we're going to increase some fermentation space in the current location we're at, and we're going to look for some other space to build out. We rent here, so we'll look to buy either a piece of land in somewhere down here in Florida and probably build out, another facility and move out of here when our lease expires.
Right.
So increase, bring in some more equipment in here, some fermenters, probably a centrifuge, and then we're looking to expand space-wise, another location.
Awesome. Well, good luck with all that, and please come up to the Northeast because I live in New York, and I would love more access to that beer.
Okay.
So if somebody came to you and asked you for advice on opening their own brewery, what would you tell them?
Oh, yeah, there's a lot there. Well, I think probably the most important thing is the person would need to, not just have the love, but look at investing a tremendous amount of time. It's a major sacrifice. Starting a brewery and surround themselves with some competent people that work in their area of genius, because it's like maybe able to make some great beer, but if you can't run a business, or it's like the baker makes a great cake, but can't run a business.
Right.
You really need a lot of people around you. You're going to need a lot of time. If you're married, make sure your significant other is definitely in the game for the long run and
Right.
prepare to run a triathlon. So that's my recommendation. Certainly the traditional, you have to have the right place, location, parking's important, the space, but from an emotional, physical part, you really need the time. You have to have the heart, and you have to be in there doing the heavy lifting. It's not easy.
Right. For sure. So, did you happen to have a funny story for us?
You're asking, it's like everything you got to try to make light of funny, but I guess the one thing I can say that just recently happened that I had to laugh about is, so it's been a real struggle on the food service side.
Okay.
To bring people with unemployment. Here in Florida, they had the feds had the 600, and Florida's top end is 300. Up in New York, I think it's 550 or for the state, or 600 for the state. The feds at 6. So down here, you get a dishwasher who's making maybe $500 a week. They typically, we're able to collect unemployment anywhere from $800 to $900 a week. So it was really hard to find somebody to work the dish pit and work some of the lower paying jobs that are paying out
right.
14, 15 bucks an hour. So so we were going through these trials and tribulations, and just like, all right, I'm going to take care. I'm getting the next one. Get this guy gets hired. It's like, yeah, okay. Everybody's high-fiving. We got somebody in there, and this guy's a beast. He gets in that kitchen, in that dish pit, and he's, knocking dishes out. And, like, I go in the kitchen, I check it out. It's like, all right, hey, good job, man. And about 3 hours later, I, go back in the kitchen, and I say, so one of the guys in the back, I go, hey, I don't even remember the guy's name. I said, where did the dishwasher go? He said, oh, he just went out for a cigarette break. All right. It's like, 20 minutes later, I said, where's the dishwasher? The guy never came back. We're all high five, and it's just like, oh my God. So you really have to laugh at just about everything, because then what happened is, I jump in there to do dishes, and I'm just like, what the hell?
Right.
Or Corey's in there doing the dishes, and we just have to step up and do the job. And it's pretty, it's pretty tough. But I'd have to say that just recently happened, and it was fun. I really laugh about that now.
Yeah. It seems to be a common occurrence. Like my buddy, he was just telling me the other day, he owns a fencing company. He's like, hey, do you know anybody? He goes, I had a guy show up, and he came for about 2 days of work. On the third day, he never showed up. He left his check here. I haven't seen him since. I can't get in contact with him. So it's like I don't know. I guess people don't want to work. They rather hang out and do nothing. I don't know, but that's just the way the world is. I don't get it. So I have a little segment called Quick Fire 5. 5 quick questions, beer related. Ready?
Okay.
All right. Somebody walks into your brewery right now. What's one of the beers that you recommend they try?
Typically, I'll recommend either our Pilsner and our Amber.
Okay. Favorite brewery other than your own?
I'd have to say Pelican Brewing out in Oregon.
All right. Favorite style of beer?
My favorite style of beer would be, we get every day, my favorite style of beer is barley wines and barrel-aged beers, dark beers.
Nice. My type of guy. Let me tell you, I just picked up one from Evil Twin in New York the other day, and it is phenomenal. And I have 3 left, and they might go really quick. So, barrel-aged, imperial, or both? I think I already know the answer.
Yeah, definitely barrel-aged, but I don't mind the high ABV. Yeah, most of the barrel-aged are
right.
imperials, but yeah, definitely the barrel-aged would be my
okay. And you have 1 keg of beer to hold you over for a 2-week quarantine. What beer are you choosing?
It would be our Ocean Park Pilsner.
Ocean Park Pilsner.
Yep.
All right. Well, Joe, that's all I got for you, man.
All right. Well, great. Well, thanks for the time. Hopefully, shared something of value to somebody who may be listening, and it's very good. I appreciate the opportunity to share.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm glad we were able to make this happen. Hey guys, thank you so much for listening to my interview with Joe Artanis of Three Sons Brewing Company in Dana Beach, Florida. Whether you're passing through, you live in the area, or just visiting a friend nearby, you should definitely check him out. Also, give him a follow on social media while you're at it. Special thanks goes out to Corey Artanis for his military service. We salute you, Corey. Every other Sunday I'll be releasing new episodes, so subscribe and you'll never miss one. Also, check us out on social media for updates on the podcast. I'm Mike Curtin for the Brew World Order Podcast. You stay safe out there.